Brothers and sisters, welcome back to a new episode of Williams to World Drivers Champions, where I, the resident F1 fanatic of the Bash Bros, am playing F1 Manager 22 and trying to get Williams back to the pinnacle of the sport. Last time out, as you are aware, we had our very first race in Bahrain, and it was disappointing, would be the best way to describe it. It definitely reaffirm my thoughts that, yeah, we're not going to be fighting for points anytime soon. And when we left that, we discussed, yeah, well, we had developments on the way for the underfloor mainly, which is going to be a big factor in terms of these new regulations. And we'd be back for the Spanish Grand Prix, which is where we are now. But before that, we definitely have a lot to talk about in terms of what happened in the races in the interim. So let's get into that first. So first up, we raced in Saudi Arabia. We qualified 18th and 20th. Alex Albon did have that new suspension that was in development before we even arrived at Williams. So we were ahead of one of the Aston Martins in, I want to say it was, I think it was Lance Stroll. Which was good. Always good to be ahead of them. And when the race started, Albon was able to quickly get into a small battle with Sebastian Vettel, leading up to probably ending with one of the best double overtakes I think I've seen in F1 Manager so far, where Albon managed to get ahead of both of them, which is really good. And then as we came into the pit windows, we pitted, and both Alex and Nicholas both managed to come out of the pits ahead of both of the Aston Martins, because we were on a completely different strategy to everyone else, which is weird. And then as we got later in the race on lap 28, Norris had a big crash going into turn 1, triggering a safety car. We decided not to pit. We were going to hold station and stay where we were. And as the safety car ended, we ended up in a very tough battle with Mick Schumacher for that position, and it didn't really work out, unfortunately, but that's fine. We were still pretty high up the field. And then as we come towards the end of the race, Alex was all the way up in P12. Didn't hold it, unfortunately. He was P13 by the end of the race, and on the very last lap, Yuki Tsunoda had another crash into turn 1, much like Lando Norris, which kind of nullified the end of the race anyway. So as you can see on the screen now, I have an Excel spreadsheet kindly provided, I believe it's called F1 Management. I will double check the name of that and put a link in the description, who have created this spreadsheet. I think they mainly use it for esports competitions, but I'm kind of co-opting it for this because I think it's a bit handier. Because I think some of the results tracking in F1 Manager itself is questionable. So as you can see, Sainz, Perez, Leclerc all finishing in the top 3, followed by Lewis. Max Verstappen having a very disappointing race, finishing down 8th. And really, other than that, there's no real outliers in terms of results. Then we got to the Australian Grand Prix. At this point, yes, we also had the new suspension developed for Nicholas Latifi, so both cars going in with the same spec. Again, we qualified 18th, 20th, kind of a running theme of these, to be honest. And on lap 1, Albon made a mistake that kind of cost us a couple of places. But then on lap 4, a safety car is triggered by quite a spectacular crash between Leclerc, Sainz, and Max Verstappen, which ends up with Leclerc being out of the race entirely, kind of scuppering his championship very early on. I believe Sainz and Max both come out of it, not unscathed by any stretch of the imagination, but they both come out of this still intact, and still in the race. So we have a decent restart at the pits, or after the safety car, and then the pit stops. They're fine with nothing spectacular. And then towards the end of the race, Latifi spins, and we have a last corner overtake on us by Lando Norris to leave us in 14th place with Alex and 19th with Nicholas Latifi. So again, the result here, Perez coming home first as he managed to stay unscathed in the pinball that fucking Max Verstappen was playing, followed by Sainz and Lewis Hamilton in 3rd. No other real outliers in there. And then we get to the Imola Grand Prix, where we actually have a wet qualifying, which really helps us because the track starts quite dry, so I think us and a couple of other cars managed to get out on the dry track before a lot of other people, and we just about squeak in some dry laps before everyone else is forced to use the intermediate tires, which means for the first time in the series we get out of Q1. We did take a gamble in Q2 and decided to hold out and maybe hope to get on the dry tires at the very end before while it was drying up, but the track just never gets dry enough, and we end up in 14th and 15th for Imola, which is fine. You can get out of Q1, I think, is a great result for us. We took advantage of the weather, and we know we're going to need to do that quite a lot, probably. So Imola starts as a dry race, and us in 13th. Make a decent start, making up a position or two. And then as the rain starts to come on lap 4, we decide to pit. Unfortunately, so does everyone else, and it really fucks us over because we get stuck in our pit box for so long. It completely ruins the race for us, to be perfectly honest. It's a really unfortunate. I think if we had we took a gamble by pitting early. I just didn't think everyone else would also be pitting that much, and being where we are in the pit lane, it just meant we had to wait for everyone to come past us before the AI would let us release out of the pit box. So it kind of fucked us over, and then we kind of pit a bit early for the dries, but honestly the results had kind of already been decided for us by then. It was never really going to be a decent race for us, and we come home in Imola in 16th and 19th. And the results for Imola were Max coming home in the lead, being one of the other people that early pitted with us, followed by Lewis in second and Charles Leclerc in third place. And finally, we were at Miami, F1's newest track, and we qualified 19th and 20th. I don't know what happened. I don't know why the car just didn't seem to work here for qualifying. We didn't have that one lap speed. And honestly, then it all kind of starts going downhill. We have a very bad start. Albon ends up trying to make a move on one of the cars ahead of us and just doesn't work. So he ends up even behind Latifi. But then as the track goes on, Latifi himself has a major crash, bringing out the safety car. We get a decent restart from the safety car. Alex Albon ends up in P11 afterwards. And even that, I can't remember, I don't really know what happened, but for some reason we end up battling Signs down about P12. Signs obviously making I think a lot of the cars pitted just after the safety car ended for whatever reason. They must have just decided we're going to stick to our strategy no matter what happened. So after the safety car ended, a lot of cars pitted, which then pushes us back up the field. We defend from Signs a little bit, it doesn't last much longer. And then a virtual safety car is triggered and Albon ends up in P10. So we're running into points, I think, for the first time this entire series. And then Verstappen crashes. This is an incident-filled race. Another safety car is out when Verstappen crashes. And even while we're behind the safety car, Alonso managed to crash, even though we're meant to be going as slow as potentially possible. And then on the restart, we had a 1-lap restart for the end of Miami, and on that last lap we did manage to make up one position. So the results for Miami ended up being Charles Leclerc in first, Sergio Perez and George Russell getting a podium. When we, with Alex Albon, we ended up finishing 13th, which is a good result after starting 19th. So in terms of the constructor standings, we are in 9th, which is our expected finish. We are not expected to finish any higher than 9th, so the board is happy enough with us. At one point we were running as high up in, I think we were about 8th or 7th or 8th, just because of where we'd finished compared to the people around us. But a couple of good results for Haas and McLaren getting decent points finishes in the last couple of races has meant we are sitting with Aston Martin languishing down in the 0-point category. But hopefully that changes soon enough and maybe we can lock into a point or two. In terms of the Drivers' Championship, yep, as I mentioned, 5 drivers who got to score points. Both Williams, both Aston Martins, and Mick Schumacher all failing to score points. Alex Albon at the top of all those, due to, I think, him having the highest points. Sorry, the highest non-points finished of 12th or 13th. At the top of the constructors, we have Sergio Perez sitting top right now, with 1 win out of 5, 4 podiums, most importantly. Has anyone actually? Yeah, so the only person with multiple wins right now is Charles Leclerc, but he has also DNF'd a race. Whereas Max has finished all the race, or Max finished also DNF'd a race, whereas Sergio and Carlos have both managed to finish all their races. Constructors, it's very close to the top. There's a 7-point lead for Ferrari over Red Bull, but they will hopefully, that'll be a close fight, I imagine, throughout the entire season. So what has happened with us outside of the races is probably another big point we need to cover. So we got a couple of our scout reports back, and we've been continually scouting for new drivers. So we got, when we left, we were scouting both Piastri and Logan Sargent. With Piastri, his contract is actually up this year, so towards the end of the year, the buyout won't be that much, so he is a potential, quite a big potential target for us. Like, his buyout fee is going to be fairly small, considering his target, like, by the end of this year, he'll have 1 or 2 months on his contract. Whereas Logan Sargent, on the other hand, still has 4 years left in his contract, so that buyout, despite being a potentially worse driver, his buyout is far, far higher. So that pretty much rules, I think, Logan Sargent out of contention for us, personally anyway. I just don't think it'd be worth making that much money on someone who won't improve as much as. That also then meant we could scout TO WDC, who again has 3 years left in his contract, but is also quite a good driver. So he's someone that would be worth that money more than Logan Sargent anyway. So he's a potential option. And we also scouted Jack Doohan, who is also out of contract this year. So there's another potential option. So it's really, with the way things are, I think we're looking at either Oscar Piastri or Jack Doohan. But I've also started scouting some actual current F1 drivers to see what their contract situations will be like at the end of the year. So like Yuki Tsunoda, he's been a decent wee driver. He's actually scored quite high points in the last race. So he'll be quite an interesting one to look at and see if he is maybe out of contract at the end of the year. We could bring him in. And Pierre Gasly as well, to see what his contract situation is like. We also did have a vote for a new technical regulation. This was going to be a sweeping technical regulation, and it was going to be vote for either minimal changes all around the board or moderate changes all around the board. Because we are a worse off car, we don't have the financial backing of other teams. The less changes, probably the better, because we'll not have the resources available to get all those stats back as quickly. So we voted for minimal regulation changes, and that was what passed in the end. With it was us who voted for it, and McLaren, Red Bull, Mercedes, Alpine, and AlphaTauri all voting in favor of the minimal regulation changes. We also upgraded our facilities a little bit, so we completed the upgrade, I think on the factory was one of them, and we upgraded the design center as well. We're now doing another upgrade on the design center to let us design more parts concurrently. And we're upgrading our CFD simulator. We designed the new rear wing, that finished up, and now we are continually just bringing in new things, and we're manufacturing more of those underfloors that we had before, so that in the case that Nicholas TV crashes again, we have spare parts. We've also started design projects on a new chassis and on a new front wing, which will hopefully both be ready for the next time I'm back after the Spanish Grand Prix. So finally, the last thing I wanted to make sure I do, I need to make sure I put all these new parts on the car. So I need both the cars to have their new underfloor installed, and also I'm going to put new engines in both the cars. We definitely noticed that our pace was down massively on some of the straights in Miami, so I think now is the time to put in a new engine, make sure we're putting a new engine, new gearbox, so that the car is performing to the best of its ability. I know Spain isn't necessarily a massive track in terms of power, but that new stuff will always be handy. So with that said, I'll jump forward to just before qualifying, and I will see you then.
Formula One has cranked up the heat over Barcelona. The first Grand Prix held here was won by Nigel Mansell after a wheel-to-wheel battle with Ayrton Senna. But who will follow in his footsteps this weekend? Long straights and medium-speed turns dominate here, but there's something else to watch out for at Barcelona. The air currents are strong and unpredictable, and they'll be giving aerodynamic components a real run for their money this weekend. At this early stage in the season, there are still plenty of opportunities for things to change. In this sport, there simply are no guarantees. The competition is on.
So here we are back for qualifying, and we had decent practices. We were always still kind of at the back of the grid, but be expected, and hopefully now in qualifying we'll see if we can easily beat the Aston Martins in qualifying rather than our stereotypical 18th, 20th finishes. So we're going to send people out straight away. We're going to get Latifi and Albon out fairly early. I'm going to stick with our idea of trying to do 3 runs at a time, 3 runs in a Q1, knowing that we'll not likely get out to Q2, but we'll see how the times look. So we'll ride on board with Nicholas Latifi as he begins his first run in Q1. No traffic too close by, so hopefully that won't be an issue. That Aston Martin and that Alpine are hopefully far enough up the road that it shouldn't be a problem. So Albon going faster in the first sector by a tenth, about 500ths of a second, 600ths of a second, not bad. Drivers seem to be fairly closely competitive today, but someone is going faster behind us. It's likely that Alfa Romeo in sector 2. What are we looking at for both drivers? A 30.4 for Latifi and a 30.38, so about a tenth of a second between the drivers in sector 2. Coming into the tricky final sector in Spain, in the actual F1 or in the F1 driving games, that this last chicane always trips me up. It is a pain in the ass. And coming around the final corner now, Nicholas Latifi is looking at a 27.25 to give him a 125.46, followed by Albon, who goes faster with a 120.186. So 0.3 of a second between them. Let's get these drivers back into the garage, change the tires, and see if we can do another run. So we've decided only to actually do the 2 runs in qualifying today. It is, we actually do feel I feel like we are a lot closer with Albon anyway in terms of that breaking that P15 spot. Like, there is only like 1/10 of a second, or maybe 2/10 of a second gets us up to P14, which is really nice. So we're not really worried. So with that in mind, we are maybe looking at getting in the Q2, so keeping those soft tires, keeping that extra set of soft tires would be very handy. So we'll fast forward here a little bit, get Albon onto his flying lap. So here we go with Alex Albon on his flying lap, hopefully going to be going faster. Our main competitors we need to look at are Mick Schumacher, who is only halfway around the lap at the minute on his low lap, and Guan Yu Zhou, who again is probably just ahead of Mick. So we'll get our time in a lot sooner than those two. Hopefully we'll be better than them. Hopefully maybe if they're in the traffic, do we have Latifi sabotage them? No, we're not that petty. But Albon going faster in the first sector, really good to see. Definitely needed that. And in the second sector, hopefully Albon can continue this pace and see himself go up the grid a little bit. Obviously the track will rubber in more and more, and the grip will be there as the session goes on, so not being the last one over the line is not great, but we've suffered from our pit-lane position before, and it's not fun. So Albon going faster again in his second sector. Latifi probably finishing his first sector soon. We'll see if he goes faster. He does, which is good. And we have Albon coming around the last corner just about now to see where he finishes up. We're looking hopefully at a decent time. Albon gets a 1. He goes faster at least. Is it going to be enough? Maybe not. We'll need to see what Mick Schumacher does. Is Mick going faster? He is currently going faster, which is unfortunate, and so is Ocon, who is slightly out of position. Latifi is going faster. Vettel has messed up his first sector, but then Latifi has now also messed up his second sector, unfortunately. So we're about to see Ocon finish now, and that pushes Albon into P16. So Albon is out of the session, unfortunately, but let's see if he can stay ahead of Mick Schumacher, who is even behind Latifi. Latifi around the final corner now. Can he go faster? Can he improve on his position? He cannot, by the looks of things. If I go faster in 2 sectors, that middle sector really letting Latifi down. It's all down to see where Mick Schumacher ends up. He does manage to get ahead of Albon, but 17th and 19th is, bar the rain affected Imola, probably our best qualifying so far. So the upgrades are working. We are ahead of both the Aston Martins, which is very, very nice. So no real surprises coming out of qualifying, though nice to see Carlos Sainz getting P1 at his home race, with the Ferraris having a front row lockout ahead of the Red Bulls. So in terms of the race itself, strategy wise, we're probably looking at, it's recommending a 2-stop, but I want to see kind of what a 3-stop kind of look, or 2-stop, or what words, Nick, what a 1-stop could look like. Is it possible? And it does seem possible. I would maybe want to swap those tires about, so maybe we're starting on the better tires at the start of the race. Yeah, like a 1-stop does seem possible, and it even lets us push those mediums a bit. So we'll definitely go with this for Latifi anyway and see how that goes. In terms of Alex, What's a one-stop look like starting on the softs? Is that possible? No, they will not last. Any way, shape, or form. Well, we'll try it. Alex, I've noticed in the races, Alex definitely does seem to overperform his expected tire wear. So we'll start with him on the softs, go on to the hards, and try and do a one-stop with both guys. With the eyes that maybe we change that for either of the drivers. Maybe Alex goes soft, medium, medium instead. But I think a one-stop for Latifi might be the best option. Make sure the drivers are going full pellet from the very start. And just let them expend everything they can to get into the best position and just try and hold on there. Let's go.
I hope I'm not tempting fate here, but there are quite a few clouds overhead as we look at the lineup on the grid. Here we have Alexander Albon. They're in the back half of the pack, so they'll need to work hard if they want a podium finish. Next up for the team, it's Latifi. They're starting in the bottom half of the grid today, so there's a lot of cars between them and the podium. The teams are ready to go. This is it. It's the Spanish Grand Prix. And it's lights out, and away we go.
So here we go. It's the start of the Spanish Grand Prix, and Alex Albon gets a decent start getting ahead of Mick Schumacher with the drag from Tsunoda. Hopefully he can keep this going into the first corner, though Mick does have the outside, or the inside line, but that does become the outside line going into the next corner. But yes, Albon seems like he has kept that position. That's really good. But oh, Schumacher is fighting on the inside. Unfortunately, he's probably going to have the speed to get past that. Though Albon is sticking with him. That inside line, though, might come back to haunt us. But no, it looks like Albon seems to have this done, which is good. And Latifi has cleared Vettel as well, which is really, really nice. That is Albon as well, making a move on the AlphaTauri to make a move. The upgrades are working. The upgrades are working. Oh, no, okay, maybe not. Maybe I spoke too soon. But we definitely seem a lot racier, which is actually really what we wanted. And we want to be able to say, yeah, the upgrades are at least letting us keep track with more than just the Aston Martins.
AlphaTauri gained a place.
Like if we can keep behind Tsunoda here for the next couple of laps, make sure we're getting that DRS later. And I think that will be really, really handy. Oh, that's Latifi as well, getting ahead of Mick Schumacher. That's really good. So Mick either has a... Yeah, okay, Mick is on the hard tires, so naturally we should expect to get ahead of them. It's now all about seeing what Albon can do, making a run at both Tsunoda. Okay, our top speed definitely seems to be way higher now with the underflow upgrades. Like, we started breezing past Tsunoda there, even without the slipstream. So that should be Tsunoda. We can hopefully keep him on the outside here. We'll have a decent position, force him to go behind us. Alright, that is Albon taking 15th now, and also potentially making a run on Ricciardo for 14th. That's a weird place to try and make an overtake, but he sticks through it. And that is Albon up to 14th. Fantastic. Exactly what we need. These upgrades are doing fantastically for us. We will tell Albon to maybe save his tires a bit now, and we can stop the deployment. Same with Latifi.
Yeah.
We don't want to go all the way and burn those straight back up. That's a fantastic start for us to get Albon from 17th all the way up to 14th in the first lap and a half. So we've used a lot of our ERS here on Alex to get on to the end of this, what looks like a Gasly train of DRS, but that's very important. DRS is going to help us stay ahead of Daniel Ricciardo too. It's just a case of making sure we stay, or we are able to hang with Guan Yu Zhou through these corners to make sure we get that DRS going down the main straight. But it is kind of touch and go at the minute. And I'm worried that if we don't get it, we are probably going to be at the mercy of Daniel Ricciardo as he comes at us with his own DRS, which he is doing right now. Unfortunately, we have just fallen way off the Zhou pace, which is fine. And Tsunoda as well. Oh no, all that hard work. All that hard work has kind of just now come undone, but that's fine. We'll hopefully be able to stick with these guys. We'll even let Alex just deploy as much ERS as he needs to stay in touch with these guys. But 16th, 17th may be our cap right now, but hopefully being a one-stopper, which I think a lot of the other teams will be doing two-stoppers, will give us that extra time we need to stay in this race a little bit and fight later on. So we've just come out of a fast forward there as we were going towards our pit windows to see that Latifi has run wide and has some slight minor damage to the underfloor. It is just minor damage, so hopefully won't be affecting him too much, and we've now just entered Alex Albon's pit window, which is fine. We have been battling away with Ricardo. It's been back and forth this whole time, but we might actually just kind of let Ricardo get on with things, and we'll put into harvest so that whenever we go on... Actually, no, we'll stick with this. The hard tires aren't exactly going to be majorly fast, so we'll stick with this. Keep battling with Ricardo. Use that ER or the DRS that we'll get off him every so often, and stick with that. Latifi, on the other hand, his tires are holding up really, really well, so I might let him extend his stint a little bit. And Alex's are slightly better, but we knew that they were going to be touch and go regardless. So Latifi, that means Latifi, just start short. Latifi, whoa, someone just went flying up the pits there. Or flying up the standings there. TV down in 18th, was having a wee battle with Schumacher, but the lockup has obviously cost him. Albon has just been fighting away with everyone, battling his way up the field and just having a constant fight with Ricardo. So we'll probably be we're seeing people have started doing their pits. If we check the tire history here, yeah, so some people have gone medium, so they'll definitely be at least two stopping. Leclerc has gone soft medium, definitely going to be two stopping. So it does seem like we would probably be the only people that are one stopping. Maybe Daniel Ricciardo as well, judging by the fact he started on the hards, but we'll have to wait and see in that case. So before his pits, Alex is even all the way up to P8. So so at the end of this lap, we'll let Alex really push on the tires and drain everything he has. So we'll even actually just tell him to harvest this lap and not use any of his battery. Then for the next lap, we will just burn everything up, knowing that we'll be going on to a whole new stint and a whole new fresh set of tires. So we've just entered Albon's pit lap. We'll stick on the hard tires. He has everything pumped up to max to just eke out as much speed as possible on this last set. Both of the McLarens go flying past, which is fine. We know this is all about us just trying to get as much speed as possible. So we're just going to keep going. They'll battle each other, hopefully not hold us up too much as we kind of push, and we'll see where we come out. Everyone is very tightly packed on this end of the field, so I'm expecting us to come out fairly far down the rankings, but a lot of other people still have to pit again, which will be fine. So we should have DRS here. No, apparently not. Apparently we don't have DRS, even though we are right behind them. That seems questionable, but that's fine. It will just keep battling through these slow sections of corners. Is that not a DRS zone? Am I imagining that maybe? Pretty sure that's a DRS zone. But that's fine. No worries about that. We're just going to keep pushing and keep trying to make sure we get to the pits as fast as possible and see where we end up. So Alex coming into the pit stops. Hopefully the team can do a good pit stop and see where we end up. Hopefully so we know where Latifi is in 18th. Latifi will likely be behind Latifi. We'll see if we can get out ahead of Stroll. And if it comes to it, we can tell Latifi, yo, Alex on a different strategy. Let him pass right now. That's a decent pit stop. 2.8. Not the fastest we've seen, but definitely a good pit stop with no major issues. And Alex is going to come out hopefully ahead of this Aston Martin. Probably not. So we're going to need to do a little bit of overtaking. But again, a lot of these guys are still going to need to pit again. Make sure Alex is not pushing it too much. We're about to get lapped here as well, I think, which is fine. That'll give us a bit more fuel to play with. We'll let Alex deploy again just for this lap and then go back to harvesting. Now, we might even extend Latifi's stint a little bit, like 50. Or, yeah, we'll let him go aggressive a bit more on those tires.
Okay, we're happy to push,
and let's see if we can extend his stint a couple of laps so that the hards don't need to run as long. Hopefully Alex here will get past this Aston Martin with minimal issues as we come down onto this straight. No, sorry, I was looking at the TV. Yeah, so we're coming onto the street. It is a DRS, so we should hopefully just fly past him on these hard tires, or much fresher hard tires, and that is P18 for Albon, with Latifi still to pit ahead of him, and hopefully a lot of other drivers still to pit ahead of him. We have multiple cars crashing in Sector 1. It looked like it was the Haas and the Alpha of Schumacher and Zhou going into turn 1. What happens here? Oh, both go sliding out. That could be damage and potentially an extra pit stop for both of them. That will really, really help our race, which is good. Mick Schumacher even getting a grid penalty for that will tell. No, will not tell Latifi to pit yet, even, sorry. Because he still has a lot of life left in those tires. So Mick and Zhou, potentially both with damage, should hopefully make them easy pickings for Latifi going up the inside. He doesn't get him, unfortunately. But we will also make sure to tell Latifi not to fight his teammate once Albon pulls up to him. So Mick Schumacher is going into the pits now. Oh god, hit the wrong button. To likely serve his grid penalty. It's probably a 5-second penalty, so we'll get that spot. Latifi overtakes Zhou as well, and that is good work by him. As he's allowed to burn out more of his tires. We'll even let him push a bit more since his fuel delta is a bit high.
Look at reducing the lift and core.
And Albon is catching him. He's pacing faster than Latifi at the minute, which is good. The interval is slowly dropping. We'll probably need to take him off being able to push a bit. So increase lift and coast, and we'll see where we are. We'll see where we are when Latifi is in need to pit. So we're at lap 37. We'll call Latifi into the pits now that his tires have hit a bit of a dry spell. We'll get him onto the hards. Well, what lap is it? 37 out of... We could push him with the softs, but I think that might be too much of an ask as they come. Like, they'll hit 30 quite quickly. We'll stick with the hards, and that means at least then Latifi can even push those tires a bit harder for the remainder of the race. Albon is quickly approaching Latifi. We are in the process of also being lapped, so we definitely have more fuel to sit and burn if we need to. And hopefully Latifi won't get in Albon's way too much, if he can even get in the way at all before he pulls into the pits. Albon has been in a bit of a race with Daniel Ricciardo, so we've entered back into that race after he's made his first pit stop to go onto the soft or the medium tires. So don't really know if he will actually be making a 1-stop or a 2-stop or not as Latifi enters the pit lane. Let's see how this goes. Hopefully, Alex was a 2.8. Hopefully Latifi will be something similar. That's at 2.7 for Latifi, so ever so slightly faster than Alex Albon's stop. He'll come out behind the Aston Martin of Vettel, but far ahead of Mick Schumacher and Stroll. So we'll let Latifi stay pushing on those tires a little bit, knowing that he's doing less than half the race on them, so they should last a while. And Albon is still battling with Ricciardo. We'll come back maybe once we see the rest of the guys start to make their second stops and see where we are coming out of those. So on lap 50, a lot of the cars around us have now made their second stop, and that has left Alex Albon in 15th, Latifi down in 18th due to a couple of lockups he's had. He has not really been able to take advantage of having much fresher tires than everyone else, and it seems like he is relegated to finishing 18th now, running a little bit of a race on his own. While Albon has been consistently battling Daniel Ricciardo this whole time. He's ahead of Zhou by 11 seconds, so hopefully Zhou won't be able to make up that time too quickly in 16 laps. And we still don't really know if Ricciardo is still to pit again. His tires are on 65%, so we probably could get away with staying on those for the rest of the race. So we could be battling Ricciardo for the entirety of the race. We shall see if anything else happens. We've been lapped. In fact, most of the field has been lapped, all the way up to 7th place has been lapped, which should show you just kind of the insane pace that Leclerc and Verstappen both have. They have left Sainz 30 seconds behind them and left Perez about a minute behind them. So that is mental pace from those two. And it really shows you just how far ahead some of those top teams are compared to the others. Like even Mercedes are both over a minute behind and are looking likely to be lapped within the net before the end of the race. So fast forward a bit, see where we end up closer to the end of the race. We'll likely still be battling Ricardo, and we'll see if Joe manages to get any closer to us. So as we approach the end of the race, we see that Latifi has again locked up. Maybe I did make a mistake not replacing him, because oof, like the car may be better, but he's not performing to the standard of what we expect. Ricardo pitted not long after we last left, and we've now entered a battle with Joe, and we've been doing a bit of back and forth with him, and I imagine that will likely be us until the end of the race, so we can even fast forward this on 2x speed to get us there a bit quicker. It seems like it's going to be us v Joe till the end of the race. Joe has fresher tires on the soft tires, they're fresher. He might just be able to pull away from us, but we'll still take a 15th, and we've shown, I think, that the car is moving in the right direction, which is good for us. So Charles Leclerc has come home in first place. He managed to lap both Mercedes before the end there, 4 seconds ahead of Max Verstappen, and even further down the road is Carlos Sainz. Absolutely staggering pace, to be honest, from the top 2 drivers, just absolutely decimating the field, honestly. We will come home in at the lowest 15th, as Ricardo has also been lapped again, and it doesn't look like we are going to get close to Joe to kind of to take him, so we'll take home a 15th place. Not a bad race by any stretch of the imagination. I think importantly we have shown that the upgrades are working, and that we are a lot more racier when it comes to racing the likes of Ricardo, Tsunoda, and Joe. Kind of the I don't want to say bad drivers, the worst drivers in some of those lower teams. So that's really good progress, I think, on our part. I think as we get more upgrades and those upgrades work a bit better, as we get more engineers even to put on those upgrades, I think it'll be very good. We'll just be able to keep working away and keep battering away at chipping away, and hopefully I would hope by the end of the season we're at least consistently getting into Q2 with Alex Albon, and maybe even being in the position to lock into a couple of points every so often. So if you look at purely looking at the results, that's not a great race, but I think when you kind of see how we got to that point, it's a lot better looking, and we can be quite happy with where we are and where we're standing. We're getting better, which I think is the very important thing, and that's seeing that progress is very encouraging. So let's get forward here. We'll be back at the admin screen to kind of see where we're going to come back and what upgrades we're looking at in the future to know when we will be coming back for the next race that you guys will see. So coming out of that race, not much change in the Constructors' Championship. Red Bull extend their lead over Ferrari extend their lead over Red Bull, while Alpha come into 4th place, just about squeaking ahead of Alpine. We are still down at the bottom. Unfortunately, that gap is slowly growing between us and 8th place due to Lando Norris scoring a couple of points. And then in terms of the Drivers' Championship, Charles takes the lead over Sergio Perez. Max still sitting in 4th, but he is closing that gap quickly enough. And down the bottom, we're still just battling it out with the 0-pointers, and hopefully we can get a point or two and overtake 1 or 2 of the McLarens soon enough. So in terms of when we'll be back, the front wing is done in 28 days, which I think brings us in line with Silverstone. I'm trying to think where I could check that. I think it's a cars, manage the build, yes. 28 days brings us before Silverstone, so hopefully we'll be able to get that manufactured in time, and I imagine, yes, we'll be back in time for Silverstone, which is nice because it's our home Grand Prix. Always nice to be home, isn't it right? Isn't that right? Hopefully we'll have a decent performance there. We'll have a lot more upgrades. I think by the time we get to Silverstone, we'll have 5 whole new parts in the car. I think the only thing we won't have changed by the time we get to Silverstone is our side pods. Let's double check that. Yeah, so I think by the time we get Silverstone, the only thing we won't have changed is our side pods, so almost a whole new car at that point. In between, we do have some tough races, the likes of Monaco, the likes of Azerbaijan, Canada, always a fun race. But no, we'll be back for Silverstone, the British Grand Prix, in 7 days' time, and I will see you all then. I hope you've enjoyed the series. Let me know what you think down below in the comments, and I shall see you next time.